I don't care if you love congestion pricing or hate it. This is an attack on our sovereign identity, our independence from Washington. And this is...
You heard it there. Coming up on Market Shares, the Trump administration announces plans to end congestion pricing. We'll tell you if New Yorkers can expect to pay more or less.
And a new Commerce Secretary has been confirmed by the Senate. His plan to eliminate a key government agency just as tax deadlines loom.
And Syracuse University could risk losing financial support following a directive from the Department of Education. Hold on to your wallets because Market Shares starts right now.
Well, the major indexes on Wall Street are closing as we sign on the air here for Market Shares. Thanks for joining us. I'm Peter Elliott.
And I'm Mike Lamorte. Let's take a look at those major indexes as the closing bell just rang on this Friday afternoon. You can take a look on your screen. All three of the major indexes in the red. There's been a lot of concerns for Wall Street right now regarding the tariff plans, if they'll be implemented. We're seeing a number of them being proposed. So definitely affecting the major indexes.
Yeah, a shaky finish here on Friday to what was a really rocky week, like you said, due in large part due to those tariffs. We saw consumer sentiment, that consumer sentiment index fall about 10%, all among fears of rising inflation and tariffs. And today, one stock in particular you won't see on your screen coming up, but United Healthcare, its stock declined about 8% after the Wall Street Journal reported the insurance company is under investigation by the Justice Department for its Medicare billing practices. That had a huge impact on the Dow Jones there. You see it had the worst week by far of any of the major indexes, down 2.8%. That's a huge hit for that index. So that company so large that its fall has put a strain on the entire market, down about $60, Michael.
Yeah, Peter, and to talk about what you were talking about, that uncertainty with those tariffs is causing investors, as Wall Street notes, to go towards bonds and starting to stay away from those yields, and that's definitely as well hurting the major indexes. But let's take a look at our market movers on the week, Peter.
The first one here is Walmart. We know the behemoth that has had a tough week here, in particular due to, like so many other companies, those tariffs. It is down about $10 on the week, down to about $94 a share. It's expecting its sales and profit growth to slow this year as due to those tariffs, really. It's one of those companies, though, that is still best positioned to kind of handle these tariffs. Of course, it's known for its scale, 4,600 stores across the U.S. It is so massive, and especially with its online operation, Walmart Plus, it can be in a good position to handle these tariffs. But right now, its outlook for this upcoming quarter, not too strong, Michael.
Yeah, to talk about that, the CEO says that they're handling the tariff situation and that they can move the suppliers that would be less affected by the tariffs. But they are noting that they're not immune to the tariffs, no. And that is also hurting their year-over-year revenue. It was supposed to be $2.76 a share. That's down to $2.50 a share. But let's take a look at our second market mover, Peter.
Well, one company that has had a pretty good plan to kind of fight inflation and certainly fight these tariffs is Hasbro. That's one company that Wall Street believes is in a good position, especially with these tariffs related to China. It has unveiled a plan. It says it's shifting some of its production away from China, moving its volume on the toys and games it produces from China from about 50% down to less than 40% over the next 2 years. Wall Street clearly liking its plan.
Now, one thing that they're partnering with Mattel,
right,
and their popular toy Barbie, their Hasbro's product Play-Doh. They're creating different models that you could kind of create on your own, put a hat on Barbie, things like that, because they do recognize their younger audience. So they're trying to create new products that are going to help their revenue, and then also they are trying to lower the cost for these products that they're putting into them. But let's move on to another so-called cost-affordable product in Apple. Apple just announced the creation of their new product, the iPhone 16e. It's the E short for economy. It's supposed to be an affordable phone, Peter, but it's still priced at $599, so basically $600 just to start.
Right.
If you wanted to upgrade it even more, you can expect to get closer to that $750 range, even close to $1,000. But they're trying to spice up their product lineup because they have their total shipments of new units coming into the United States is down 4% on the year. So they're hoping with this new product that at least with this announcement, it's getting some buzz. It's helping out their stock. They're up $6.30 at the closing bell.
That's always been a smart part of Apple's business, kind of these lower cost phones. It hasn't really offered one of its lower cost phones since the iPhone SE in 2022. That debuted at $429, so this one about $600. Still a good move for Apple here. Wall Street clearly liking it. Apple says it will include its Apple Intelligence as part of its phone, but analysts say that they haven't really seen any indication from consumers that they're that interested in its Apple Intelligence when it comes to buying new phones. Well, moving on here to congestion pricing, which has been such a big deal here in New York City. New York Governor Kathy Hochul is speaking out against the Trump administration's plan after it announced plans to end that congestion pricing in New York City. The announcement was followed by a post from both President Trump and the official White House X account stating, quote, "Congestion pricing is dead. Manhattan and all of New York is saved. Long live the king," end quote. The posts were made alongside an image of Trump wearing a crown with the New York skyline in the background. And now it comes just a few days after Trump also posted, quote, "He who saves his country does not violate any law." Governor Hochul says the toll scanners will stay on, though. The future of the program in New York City is in limbo. Michael?
And Canadian AI company Cohere is being sued by major publishers for copyright violations. Cohere, which is valued at $5 billion, is said to have used at least 4,000 copyrighted documents to train their AI program. CEO Danielle Kofi of the News Media Alliance says, quote, "Our content is being stored and used to create verbatim and substantial copies of our material. That's theft," end quote. The Thursday lawsuit goal is to enforce the protection of licensed journalism and to establish the role of these materials in the future of AI development practices.
Well, let's turn to Washington now. The Senate has confirmed Howard Lutnick as Commerce Secretary in a 51-45 vote, and earlier this week, a big vote indeed. He will oversee economic growth and job creation while being tasked with carrying out President Trump's signature economic power plays, the use of tariffs. Lutnick also plans to replace the Internal Revenue Service, the IRS, with an external revenue service that would oversee taxes on foreign nations. Lutnick was the longtime CEO and chairperson of the financial services firm Cantor Fitzgerald. He also noted after he left that firm, his two sons, aged 27 and 28, will take over his role at the firm. Here are the full breakdown. We'll have a full breakdown later on, but that is certainly big news indeed. With a breakdown of the rollout of these tariffs here in studio is Ethan Kraut. Ethan, are these tariffs going to be helpful in shrinking the deficit?
Thanks, Peter. Trump said that the latest batch of tariffs could be substantial as he talked to reporters in Mar-a-Lago last week. You heard Trump say that U.S. companies may be given time to bring production back home, saying there's a little bit of a chance, but he didn't add many details. These new tariffs come on the heels of a 25% tariff on steel and aluminum imports and 10% increase on Chinese imports. European Trade Chief Maros Sefcovic met with U.S. officials on Wednesday to discuss the economic disputes the two parties are facing. The EU has a 10% tariff on vehicle imports. Trump said he expects some of the biggest companies in the world to announce new investments in America in the coming weeks, but he didn't provide many other details on that. For now, though, we're going to have to wait and see how these tariffs impact the economy.
All right, Ethan, a lot there. President Trump has announced tariffs on so many things, but semiconductor chips are one of them. He announced a 25% tariff on those incoming chips. What does that mean for the future of the Chips and Science Act?
Yeah, so the Trump administration and GOP has been threatening the Chips and Science Act, as you said, an act passed by the previous Biden administration. Something worth noting, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, they're the office that is going to administer $39 billion in CHIPS Act monies and subsidies to companies to do their projects. They were part of the Elon Musk Doge cutting. They cut about 500 jobs, and experts say that if there's no employees there to allocate this money for the companies, then they can't do, then this CHIPS Act is essentially dead without officially repealing it.
Well, I want to talk about a big chip maker here in Syracuse, Micron. We've seen President Trump, even the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, talk about how the Chips and Science Act is investing billions of dollars into companies that are already worth billions of dollars. Hence, they don't like it. So with Trump saying that, and that could affect Micron, which has they have a market cap of $110 billion, about that. Would it affect a company like that?
Yeah, so Micron is heavily lobbying both the Trump administration and GOP members of Congress. This week, Micron was down only about 0.06 of a percentage point. However, just today alone, they were down about 5% and the day. If this project were to happen, and they've said that they need this CHIPS and Science Act money to make this project possible. If not, it will be devastating on the Central New York and Syracuse economy. The project is expected to create about nearly 50,000 jobs in the Syracuse area, and it's expected to have a $17 billion economic impact. So we're going to have to wait and see if this money comes so they can finish this project.
Absolutely. We'll continue to monitor that. Thank you, Ethan. Well, coming up on Market Share, Solana slides amidst a scandal with the president of Argentina. How the crypto market is responding when we come back.
Come on, it's not that hard.
My big man fingers are having a problem with these little tiny buttons.
Whoa, watch it there. Your blood pressure's gonna go through the roof.
Tell me about it. I'm trying to learn how to get it down. Instead, it keeps going up.
High blood pressure can increase the risk for heart attack or stroke. Learn how to keep yours at a healthy range.
Ever hear a voice command? Just say text barbershop to 97779.
That's not what I said.
Just give me that. Now my blood pressure's up.
Welcome back to Market Shares. It's crypto time. Argentine President Javier Milei is facing criticism after posting a link to purchase the Solana-based cryptocurrency known as Libra on X, formerly known as Twitter. Libra is a chain coin currency that crashed shortly after its launch. The post has since been taken down on Milei's account, but his account now has released a statement in Spanish on X saying, quote, I was not aware of the details of this project, and after having become aware of it, I decided not to continue spreading the word, end quote. Again, that is translated from Spanish into English. The statement offered reassurance that Argentina's anti-corruption investigator is looking into the post, as well as Milei's crypto involvement. The price of the Libra coin rose from 22 cents on launch to around $5. Today, the coin is worth about just 30 cents.
Well, U.S. banks have started scaling back diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts after Wall Street's push towards DEI practices. Executives have become increasingly worried after President Trump signed an executive order last month directing federal departments and agencies to launch civil investigations into company DEI programs. Banks are examining their own DEI practices that potentially open them up to legal risks. Changes will be on full display when companies release their public filings and annual reports in the coming days and weeks.
And that DEI crusade is coming here to campus. Syracuse University has made the list of 131 colleges that President Trump is identifying as targets for investigations into diversity practices. Just this week, the Department of Education issued a directive to all schools receiving federal funding demanding the elimination of DEI practices or risk losing financial support. The funding at risk includes Title IX grants, student loans, state curriculum development, and support for students with special needs. Universities have been given a 2-week deadline to comply, but experts anticipate months of legal battles over a potential abuse of executive authority.
Former President Biden's SAVE plan has been denied by a U.S. appeals court, claiming President Biden overstepped his power. Well, our Augustine has more on how this is impacting borrowers.
Thanks, guys. Big news today for student loan borrowers. A U.S. appeals court has blocked President Biden's Save Repayment Plan, a move that could mean higher monthly payments for millions. The Eighth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals sided with 7 Republican-led states, arguing that Biden overstepped his authority in creating SAVE, and essentially a workload around the Supreme Court struck down his broader debt relief plan in 2023. The plan was a cornerstone of Biden's promises in his presidential campaign. The SAVE plan had 2 major benefits. It offered lower payments than any other repayment plan and led to faster debt forgiveness for those with smaller balances. Now without it, borrowers could see their bills jump as much as $200 a month. The decision comes as House Republicans push for policies that could raise federal student loan costs even further. Their goal? To use extra revenue to fund Trump-era tax cuts. Advocates argue that the affordable student loan repayment is essential, as research shows high debt makes it harder for families to start businesses, buy homes, or even start a family. For now, millions of borrowers are left wondering what's next. Well, stay tuned.
All right, Dylan, what does this mean? What does the ruling here mean for borrowers?
Well, Peter, the ruling essentially halts a program that was designed to lower payments for student loan borrowers. Under the SAFE plan, payments were based on income, reducing monthly costs as low as $0 for some, and gave debt forgiveness for those with smaller balances. But now without it, millions could see their payments increase significantly. According to the Institute for College Access and Success, the average borrower could pay nearly more than $200 per month, and for some low-income borrowers who benefited from the SAFE plan's income-based reductions, that impact could be even greater.
All right, Dylan, thanks so much. We'll be following that situation closely. Appreciate you breaking that down. We'll be following that closely as well as what we've been following for the last few weeks after a deadly mid-air collision between an American Airlines flight in Washington, D.C. and a Black Hawk helicopter. And then just earlier this week, we saw a rollover crash in Toronto. The air travel industry has been under scrutiny by many here in the U.S. To tell us more is market shares analyst Verna. Roman?
Yeah, thanks, guys. Aviation safety is in the spotlight in a way that we haven't seen in a long time. As you mentioned, the fatal crash over Washington's Reagan Airport shocked the nation as it was the deadliest air incident since 2001. Since then, there have been 13 fatal incidents across the nation. So the question is this actually anything out of the ordinary? I spoke with aviation safety expert and SU professor Kivanch Avrenli. Here's what he had to say. He said there was, I think that for the time being, the media coverage has changed. This has created the illusion that crashes are happening more often. I don't think so, but again, we need long-term data to determine if the frequency of these accidents have increased or not, end quote. And if we look at stocks on the week for the big 3 carriers, United, Delta, and American, we can see that it's still too early to sense a trend. United, Delta, and American here, are all in the red, but this isn't exactly surprising. Even after these air incidents aren't trends. No matter what airline or aircraft crashes, and no matter the reason, these incidents make travelers weary of flying, and we're finally starting to see it take effect on the big 3 carriers.
Well, Roman joining us now on the desk. Going back to those stocks, are they expected to rebound as these investigations are coming out?
Well, yes and no. Media coverage is determining a lot right now. If there's a lot of fatal crashes we could see that make headlines, we could see these stocks remain low and even possibly get lower. But if things go back to the way they were in 2024 and past years, where of course airplane crashes did happen, so if things go back to where that happened and they're not making headlines, we could start to see these stocks rebound, but it's all in the trust that customers have in these airlines.
And Roman, we're learning more about what caused these crashes. First, the mid-air crash over D.C., and then that rollover crash in Toronto with that Delta flight. What caused these incidents?
Well, again, the investigations are still ongoing, but what is known right now is that a lot of this was probably miscommunication, not exactly a mechanical thing. When people see 2 similar planes get in a crash, it starts to bring back memories of the 737 MAX crashes from 2019 and 2020 that are still having a major effect on Boeing. Now, it's all about passenger trust, as I said. If the airlines don't have people that want to fly, they're not going to have anybody to support their business, and that's where we can see stocks still remain low.
And also, Roman, we're seeing, President Trump and the Department of Governmental Efficiency, they fired about 400 probationary workers at the FAA. Could that have an impact on airline safety in the future?
Yeah, it definitely could. A big thing that people are pointing to for the reason for the DCA crash is due to a shortage of air traffic controllers and the fact that one person was doing the job that two have done. So if these cuts keep happening across the country at any airport, it's definitely going to have a major effect, and that's where we're going to see a trend start to happen.
This is definitely a story that hits close to home. Syracuse lost an alumni on one of those planes, so we'll be following this story as it develops further and definitely keeping an eye on those aviation stocks. Well, coming up on market shares, Trump makes massive layoffs to federal probationary employees. Who's on the chopping block when we come back?
I don't remember how it started. Our back and forth. It always came back. Dad! You probably don't remember what you told me.
That was perfect.
But I heard every word.
Welcome back to Market Shares. We apologize for those technical difficulties and thank you for sticking with us. Over the past week, thousands of U.S. federal employees have been fired in the masses. The terminations span multiple government employees. Here to talk about this is our analyst, Brennan Andrews. Brennan?
Yeah, Mike. The U.S. federal government is experiencing mass terminations across multiple agencies as the Trump administration moves to reduce the federal workforce, citing efficiency and cost-cutting measures. These dismissals have primarily affected employees still within their probationary periods, a time frame in which federal workers can be removed with fewer procedural hurdles. The most significant impact has been felt at the Department of Defense, where thousands of civilian employees have been laid off, raising concerns about workforce stability and maintaining effectiveness. Other agencies affected include the Department of Veteran Affairs, the Environmental Protection Agency, and the Internal Revenue Service. The IRS alone has dismissed over 6,700 employees, primarily those in tax compliance roles, while the VA removed over 1,000 probationary workers. These layoffs stretch to our corner of Central New York, with Jason Robertson of the Syracuse Veterans Affairs Medical Center telling CitrusTV that, quote, Syracuse VAMC has dismissed a small number of probationary staff. This decision will have a negative effect on veteran health care, benefits, or other services, and will allow VA to focus more effectively on its core mission of serving veterans, families, caregivers, and survivors. These widespread firings have sparked legal challenges and strong opposition from federal employee unions. Unions have opened lawsuits alleging that the government is abusing probationary rules to implement politically motivated firings. However, federal courts have thus decided to intervene, have not decided to intervene, stating that existing employment laws must guide any challenges. As the situation unfolds, the administration defends its actions as necessary for government efficiency, while critics warn that these mass dismissals could disrupt essential public services and weaken the federal workforce.
All right, Brennan, you mentioned that some of these employees who have been laid off have been probationary employees. How does the probationary period affect job protections for federal employees?
Yeah, so a probationary period is the last stage in the employment process for federal workers. Employees are traditionally monitored on a case-to-case basis for their organizational fit and behavior and have limited rights to job protection in the appeals process in the event of a termination. these limited rights are a huge proponent in why it's possible to see these employees fired in masses.
All right, Brennan, thank you so much for your coverage of that story. Well, moving on, Uber is suing DoorDash this week for anti-competitive practices that it claims increases costs for restaurants and users. The lawsuit, filed in California, claims that DoorDash coerces restaurants into exclusive partnerships by threatening higher commission rates for using Uber Eats. DoorDash holds more than 60% of the food delivery market. Uber commands just a 25% share. Uber is seeking an unspecified amount of damages and a court order requiring DoorDash to change its practices.
Need a little energy here, Peter. Well, energy drink companies like Celsius is set to buy rival Alani Nu for almost $2 billion. Celsius will purchase Alani for a net $1.65 billion, while also gaining $150 million in tax assets, the company's largest acquisition since its founding 20 years ago. The sale comes as Celsius income slows while Alani's rises. Celsius hopes this move will solidify their place in the energy drink industry as Coca-Cola, Keurig, and Dr. Pepper continue to develop competing products.
Celsius has certainly solidified its place here at CitrusTV and SU. Well, KFC, the company once known as Kentucky Fried Chicken, is leaving the Bluegrass State for the Lone Star State. That's hard to believe. Over 100 employees will relocate over the next 6 months from Louisville to Dallas. The company isn't exactly abandoning its Kentucky roots entirely, though. Its owner, Yum Brands, is keeping its corporate offices in Louisville. It also is planning to build a flagship restaurant in the Derby City, but KFC's headquarters no longer in Kentucky, Michael.
Yeah, I don't know what you would rebrand the name dropping Kentucky from it. Who knows? I don't know about that.
Big part of its identity.
Still to come here on Market Shares, it's cookie season. As the Girl Scouts flank the Syracuse campus, Wendy's released a new Frosty flavor inspired by this classic cookie. Stay with us.
They said a bottle was just a bottle. That no one would ever notice me. But I knew I could be more. That one day, I would make people smile.
Women are bad with money. It's what the world's been saying for centuries. But now, we've got something to say. Save it.
Save the old-fashioned advice, the empty excuses. It's all worthless, unlike us.
To our fellow females, it is time to save ourselves by saving our money. Contributing to our futures, investing in our independence.
Until we're no longer 80%
more likely than men to live in poverty in retirement. So again, we say to that, save it. The falsehoods, the feelings of fault. Then the funds. Learn how to save for your retirement at wesaysaveit.org.
Wrapping up things here on Market Shares, we promised a sweet treat. Here it is. Today, Wendy's is releasing a new limited-time Frosty flavor. The chain is partnering with the Girl Scouts of America to serve up a Thin Mints Frosty. The treat is, quote, swirled and topped with a rich, minty cookie crumble sauce inspired by the flavor of the Girl Scouts Thin Mints, end quote. That is the product description, and we have it right here in front of us. Look at the tight shot here of the Thin Mints Frosty. This appears to be the chocolate version. That
looks
the
like
vanilla?
The vanilla. Yeah, it looks like vanilla. I gotta say, I'm a big Girl Scout cookie guy. The one that I don't eat is Thin Mints.
That's the one you don't eat.
You can smell how minty it is, so we might as well dig in.
We'll dig into it here. It makes sense because usually you put the Thin Mints in the freezer, right? But this, this is a cold treat.
Boy.
We've been told never to eat on camera, but I guess we'll do it. Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh wow.
That's actually not as bad as I expected.
No. The bar was low, and it has cleared that bar.
It certainly has. I mean,
I kind of like it. You know what? You would have expected it. I feel like to be a little more green. I don't know. I know it's a chocolate cookie, but
Girl Scout colors. You got to get the green
Girl Scout
in there,
colors, right? I guess I'm asking for more artificial flavor, artificial color and flavoring here. This is not bad. Here, let's have a second bite here.
There we go. Dig in, right? You got to do the two just to make sure.
Yes, thank you. Oh my goodness, thank you to our executive producer Ben Bastick for this treat here. This is real. This is the privilege of being on the desk here for this show. Not bad, Wendy's.
Well, Peter, I think that's all the time we have in Market Shares. I got to go take this to the back and finish it.
Yep.
Be sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and at CitrusTV News. For the entire CitrusTV News team, I'm Mike Lamorte.
I'm Peter Elliott. We're going to keep enjoying these Frosties. Have a good night, Syracuse.